Russia-Armenia relations take a new turn, while the Armenian side is trying to balance relations with different geopolitical centers. The Kremlin pressures the Armenian authorities to cast the die, while the authorities engage in a candid discussion ahead of the elections in Armenia, with the railway concession and pro-Russian political forces as the point of contention. Cultural ties between Russians and Armenians tell a different story. Russian producer Yelena Yakovleva admires Armenian music and is set on taking it all over the world. Music is intertwined with politics in this episode. Tell us what exactly a Russian producer does in Armenia.
It's a very tricky question because we started almost 4 years ago with a field research, going from Noemberan to Agarak, and to talk to people, to meet teachers, educators, and young musicians, to understand what do we have at this very moment in Armenia. And gradually, for the recent 4 years, the approach has emerged. So what are we doing now is, on the one hand, is producing infrastructural projects like teaching books or festivals. On the other hand, we want Armenia to be visible on international cultural radar. That means inevitably to be followed, to be observed, and to be traveled to.
While individuals of Russian and Armenian origin admire the beauty of each other's cultures, the authorities address tough questions to each other. Russia's Putin suggested pro-Russian forces take part in the elections, while the Armenian PM had to remind the Russian leader that the constitution requires leaders with Armenian passports. While export bears the consequences of the mismatch of political cultures, may music heal political and economic wounds inflicted. Armenian pre-election stage is pretty modern, with AI, podcasts with ex-presidents, but most original of all is the Armenian PM's youth band. Yelena will evaluate the Armenian PM's performance from a professional standpoint. The Armenian Prime Minister plays drums in a band. As a professional, how do you evaluate his performance? Is it good enough?
I am not a professional musician.
But you're a professional producer dealing with professional musicians every day. Is he good enough to win young voters' hearts?
That's another story. The Armenian Prime Minister is doing something which is recognizable, which brings joy, as all other culture brings joy, relief, support, and recognition. So I would look at these drum performances after the elections.
So, is he good enough or not as a drummer?
I've never been a drummer. We need to ask someone who literally a percussionist who plays drums.
But as a producer, you choose musicians and you give them access to world stages. Would you give Pashinyan access to a world stage?
That's a very interesting question, because as a producer and non-musician, I always judge by emotional impression. Is the musician or an orchestra or an ensemble in front of me tells a story? If there is a story, emotional, intellectual, or any kind of story behind the performance, if I feel that I'm curious, that it interests me, that it takes me somewhere, then I would definitely give a stage.
So, would you?
It's hard to say. I need to go and to hear live.
I see. Well, let's talk more about cultural diplomacy. What exactly is it you do, and how do you try to put Armenia on the map of world music?
We've got a specific projects, but before that, I would like to share one important from my end thing. I believe that even here in Armenia, we truly think that everyone who is into music, who practice it, who performs it, is a kind of genius and amazing musician. What is important here for the outer world is to be acknowledged and recognized from the references abroad. That means that when an Armenian artist goes to Minuhin competition, goes to Sibelius competitions, goes to Queen's Elizabeth competition, he or she does not judge by nationality. Through the history of country, through the dramatical events of the country, it's judged purely by the artistry, technical abilities, and the performance. Therefore, to be visible, we need either bring something what is, let's say, worldwide recognizable here in Armenia, to produce it locally, to bring journalists, to bring tourists, or bring our artists abroad so that they could compete with other nationalities on international and globally recognized competitions.
How good are Armenian musicians, would you say?
It depends
on global stages.
It depends on the, let's say, on the discipline, on the instrument. We know a few examples on cello. We know a few wonderful examples on violin, which I believe easily can be, let's say, the gateway, the bridge for the further developments. However, for winds, for percussions, there is some still room for development. For maybe cellists, because so far we've got Narekh Nazaryan, and I don't believe that it's enough to be represented just by one fantastic musician. I mean, by the musician here is the person who is born and trained to a certain level here, because there are Armenian native musicians abroad, but they don't live here. And that's an important thing.
Back to the pre-election process. We have podcasts by the opposition, we have AI being used, and we have music. Which one do you believe wins?
I always believe in music. I always believe in art. I believe that the secure and comfortable, emotionally comfortable space which classical art specifically provides to various people, to the potential of bringing diverse audience who would never ever meet otherwise in the same concert hall, under the same auspices of orchestra or conductor or musician. That's a huge, huge thing to explore and to be recognized even by politics.
Politics has entered the gates of the church, echoing from its ancient walls. The clergy invited politics in. Liturgy is meant to purify souls of the worldly turmoil, but the world, the secular, was ushered into the realm of the heaven for a while. Political contentions seem to be wearing out, though. Perhaps secular and spiritual authorities will soon track down their own lane. A Russian producer taking Armenian music to all over the world. Why? What is so special about Armenian music?
When I came to Armenia over 10 years ago already, I was astonished by the combination of deep cultural roots and the beauty of culture on the one hand, and the dramatic events on the other hand. And these all together ended for me in a very warm and welcomed atmosphere. And I was astonished. I mean, how it could be even theoretically possible that a nation which survived so many dramatic and disastrous events ended up being so empathical, warm, welcoming. It was like, wow, is that real? Is that possible? Ever since, even dig deeper into the culture, into the art, meeting with musicians, with conductors, I never ever regret that this is something which has to be seen and acknowledged globally.
So is this about the warmth of the natives, or is this about the music? How exactly does Armenian music stand out from the rest of Caucasian music and from Russian as well?
Have you ever noticed that Armenian music, both spiritual, folk, and academic, is warm music? I believe that the notion which is inside is very much connected with the notion of people who creates this music, created many years ago, and who performs this music nowadays. So I believe that there is a strong connection between two of these things.
And music takes the central stage again as a local pop star sings at a concert on the Day of the Citizen following the genocide remembrance. Polemics grow tense. How long should remembrance last? Even the singer is targeted for taking part in a concert on a day the ruling party has assigned as a celebration. Dark passion runs deep. Elections are ahead.